Today's imperial family of Milano and the Fried Archdukes are the only ones capable of controlling spirits in this empire. Princess Ubera. Dorothea Milaneo is interested in history. She reads books, but is rather skeptical about what is written in them. Dorothy is distracted from her constant study by the princess's older brother, Raymond Milaneo, who runs into the library. The boy apologizes to his sister for distracting her and offers to play together. Dorothea looks at her brother and remembers how once this true heir to the throne already died at her hands in a past life, when she was a cruel tyrant. Now Dorothy is experiencing her second life, given to her as a chance to make things right, and she does not want a repeat of the past. This time, everything should be the other way around, and her goal should be a life in which she will be kind, because her main lesson was that good deeds are rewarded with happiness, and bad deeds are rewarded with misfortune. At that time, Dorothea was truly evil. Killing the crown prince and seizing the imperial throne, she destroyed all the undesirables and bestowed wealth and power on those she liked. However, when the heroine received everything, only the end awaited her, because the one she loved hated her and chose death, and the people with whom she shared the power strangled her with it. Then Dorothea happily accepted death, but suddenly, fate decided to give her a second chance, and the girl was born again. Deciding for herself that from now on she lives differently, the princess understands that now she needs to tolerate her brother, no matter what he does. Ray hugs his sister affectionately. He is proud of how smart and well-read she is. The boy's head contains only flowers and butterflies, but he received more than Dorothy only because he was born a prince. Raymond keeps asking Dorothy to play with him, and then the nurse comes to the girl's aid, advising the boy not to distract his sister from her studies. The nurse notices Dorothea studying Ubera's history and is impressed by her knowledge. The princess reveals what she knows about the spirit stone that disappeared during the time of Kores. The maid never ceases to be amazed at the depth of knowledge of the little princess, and wants the emperor to know about them. Dorothea's heart sinks. She asks the nurse not to talk about her with the emperor. The emperor is Dorothy's own father, but this word is alien to her because she does not feel it. Of course, they are related by blood, but this does not matter to Dorothy, since she was unable to inherit the right of Milano. Dorothea's mother, Empress Alice, died immediately after the birth of the girl, and therefore Carnan was indifferent to the child who was born at the expense of the life of his beloved wife. Previously, the girl did everything to make her father notice her. She fell in front of his eyes, demonstrated her intelligence. She tried her best to surpass Ray, but until the very end, her father did not look in her direction. However, with Raymond it was different. He didn't have to do anything to receive gifts from his father and have dinner together. He could ask the emperor an endless number of questions and smile, and the girl did not understand why he loved Ray more. Dorothy couldn't accept that her father never looked her way, even though she tried so much harder. Therefore, Dorothy could only calm down when she tormented Ray properly and took away his things. As punishment, the emperor locked the girl in a room for a month, and the further it went, the more their relationship looked like a devilish, vicious circle. Dorothy longed for love, but her love remained one-sided and did not reach him, as if she wanted to reach out to the moon with her hands. This is how the seeds of evil were saturated with anger and guilt and germinate, bringing with them even greater suffering. Her jealousy and greed, her ability to go over people's heads, all this gave birth to the tyrant Dorothea Milaneo. However, now, in this life, the girl realizes that it is useless to shift her own sins onto others, and in this life she will definitely be kind. The nurse persuades the girl to leave the library and take a walk in the garden. She invites her to go to the Rodina Ellis garden, which the emperor created for his wife, who missed her homeland. Before her rebirth, the girl often went there, but now she hasn't visited it for a long time, so she obediently goes to the gate. Suddenly, she hears the voice of the emperor, who is outraged that some people are heading into the garden. Carnan did not see his daughter for so long that he did not recognize the princess and the girl. The nurse hurries to introduce the girl to her father. The emperor is dissatisfied with Dorothy's manners, and she is upset that he cannot even greet her normally. The woman justifies the girl by saying that she is surprised to meet the emperor, because in fact she shines in etiquette classes. Dorothea, lifting the hem of her dress, curtsies, thus greeting the emperor as befits. Emperor Carnan wonders what makes the princess unique, but she modestly denies her exceptionality. Having learned from the nurse that Dorothea knows the entire imperial family tree, Carnan demands that she tell everything she knows. The girl refuses, and the father and daughter begin a verbal spat, and each of them believes that one is testing the other's knowledge. The emperor continues to insist that she tell him everything she knows. Dorothea is stubborn, declaring that she is only saving the time of the busy emperor who until now has been so busy that he has never visited her. Suddenly, Karnan changes the subject, ordering the girl to ask her for what she desires. Knowing that she cannot remain silent, although she does not need anything from him in this life, Dorothy asks her father to prepare the best wine and name it in her honor. The emperor reprimands the nurse for talking about alcohol for a girl of that age. Dorothea stands up for the maid, saying that she read about this in a book about Babalua. The author of the book told how the hero drank wine with his beloved, and Dorothea became curious out of curiosity to try good wine at least once. Karnan was surprised by the erudition of the young girl and promised to fulfill her request if she told her family tree. Otherwise, he would sentence the servant who lied to him to death. Despite the fact that Dorothea obviously inherited the tyrannical character from her father, this time she obeys, because she decided to become kind, and the fate of the nurse now depends on her action. After this incident, the nurse expected that the emperor would become interested in his daughter, but he has never visited her until now. The maid explains Karnan's behavior as being busy, but Dorothea is glad that she does not see him, because this spoils her mood. Suddenly, Ray appears, and having asked the maid not to give her away, Dorothy runs as fast as she can to hide from her annoying brother. Standing behind a column, the girl listens as her brother boasts of his abilities to control the spirit of light. The spirit of light is a force that once lit the sun and is available only to the Manho family, but now it has weakened and can only light small lights. Over time, those who cannot control spirits at all began to be born into the family, and the princess is one of them. Raymond is upset that he did not find his sister, because a friend came to him and he wanted to introduce him to Dorothy. The princess decides to quietly run out through the back gate of the garden and runs without noticing that someone is standing on the threshold. The girl crashes into a dark-haired boy with a red tie and falls to the ground in surprise. The boy is alarmed that the girl fell, he apologizes, and Dorothea, hearing his voice, does not believe her eyes. He stands in front of her, the man whom she loved more than anyone in the world before her rebirth, the man who was then destroyed by her greed, and who hated her more than life itself. Brushing away the memories, Dorothy looks back at the boy, who continues to apologize and tries to help her get up. Without noticing it, the princess, who never stopped thinking about him for a moment, pronounces the boy's name, Theon. The boy is surprised how she knows his name, because he himself sees her for the first time. However, this thought fades into the background when he notices that she is crying and tries to calm her down. Seeing his crying sister and the boy crouching next to him, the alarmed Raymond rushes as fast as he can to help. The prince grabs Theon by the collar and shakes him as hard as he can, because he believes that he offended his sister. Dorothea separates the boys, claiming that she was crying because something got in her eyes. Theon is surprised and impressed that the girl turned out to be a princess who would so bravely cover for him in front of her brother. Raymond apologizes to the boy for misinterpreting the situation. The boys make up, and Ray is introduced to her new friend Theon's sister Frida. He bows to the princess and kisses her hand as a sign of respect, once again apologizing for the incident. Dorothy looks at Theon and thinks about a new beginning for their relationship, hoping that in this life he will turn his attention to her. However, she is distracted from pleasant thoughts by a familiar voice calling Theon. Turning around, Dorothea sees in front of her Julia de Leving, Theon's first and last love in a past life. Due to an agreement between the families and Dorothea's stubbornness, Theon had no choice but to marry her, but he loved Julia until his death. And this was Dorothea's past life. She longed for her father's love, but could not get it, and longed for Theon's love, but he did not give it to her. Even after his marriage, Theon constantly corresponded with Julia behind Dorothea's back. The heroine prayed that Julia would disappear, die, and could not be with him. She was delighted when a faithful servant with a solid track record brought Dorothea the news of the death of her husband's beloved. The girl consoled herself with the illusion that now her lover would come to her, but he broke away from her embrace, preferring death. And now they are standing here, along with her brother, chatting cheerfully about something. Dorothea notices that Theon and Julia must be together in this life, because they are standing holding hands. Frightened that all her thoughts are visible on her face, the princess turns around and runs away. The brother tries to stop Dorothy, but she runs away with tears in her eyes from the people whose deaths she caused in a past life. Having run to her room, the princess immediately goes to bed and asks the nurse to let her rest. The next morning, Dorothea sits in her room and, as usual, reads a book with interest. However, she cannot concentrate as Raymond nervously paces back and forth across the room. Unable to bear it, the princess slams the book and demands that her brother calm down and stop flickering around. Ray shares with his sister his worries about the fact that this evening he will officially receive the title of Crown Prince. The boy realizes the importance of the event and worries because he believes that he is not worthy of this title. Raymond believes that his sister would be a much better candidate because she is much smarter and more talented than him. Dorothea denies this assumption because she does not know how to summon spirits. Raymond is sure that his sister will soon learn this since she is very smart. The prince asks Dorothy to wish him luck, since this is very important to him, but does not receive support from her. The ceremony of handing over the crown is one of the main events of the empire when the next successor to the emperor is named. Dorothea sits before the ceremony begins and looks at the decoration of the palace, which now seems very modest to her. And then the emperor appears, and the princess realizes that she has stopped experiencing any emotions. She looks at the scepter, from which the spiritual stone has disappeared, and remembers what she heard before the execution, that a fragment of it was found somewhere. Now all this has nothing